You know that feeling when your own heart feels like a traitor, when it's screaming one thing and your brain, armed with a mountain of evidence, is screaming something else entirely. I was standing in my kitchen, my phone burning a hole in my hand, listening to a voicemail that was like a siren song. It was her voice, cracked and raw with tears, saying all the right things. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I'll always love you." And for a second, just a split second, my heart melted. I wanted to run back, to believe her. But then my eyes drifted to my laptop open on the counter, to a text message from just a week earlier, a screenshot actually, of her in a group chat with her friends, laughing about the awkward vibe I'd apparently brought to brunch. The same brunch where I was publicly excluded, treated like an inconvenient child while they gossiped about her missing ex-boyfriend. The brunch that started this whole avalanche. The whiplash was real. One minute she was this loving, attentive partner. The next, around them, she was a different person. Cold, dismissive. And the apologies that followed? They felt like they were written by a committee. This voicemail was just the final performance in a play I was tired of starring in. I took a deep breath, my hand shaking. This was it. I'd had enough of the drama, the manipulation, the feeling of being a supporting character in my own relationship. But let me rewind. Because to understand why that voicemail felt like a lie, you have to understand what happened that day at the bar. The day she left me hanging, completely and utterly alone. Now, to be fair, it wasn't all bad. In fact, 99% of the time, it was amazing. That's what makes this so confusing, you know. It's the Jekyll and Hyde thing that messes with your head. When it was just the two of us, let's call her Chloe, it was like something out of a movie. We just fit. We'd spend weekends hiking, trying out weird recipes that always ended in a mess and a laugh, or just talking for hours about everything and nothing. She was sharp, funny, and when she looked at me, I actually felt seen. She was the first person I'd ever met who could call me out on my nonsense while simultaneously making me feel like I was the most brilliant guy in the world. I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Her friends, though, that was a different story. From the beginning, there was this chill in the air whenever I was around them. It was a tight-knit group. They'd all known each other since college, and I was the new variable in the equation. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I can make conversation with a brick wall. But with them, it was like talking to a polished, slightly amused wall. They'd have inside jokes that would erupt out of nowhere, followed by glances my way that weren't exactly inclusive. I'd laugh along, but it felt forced. I chalked it up to my own insecurities at first. They're just close, I'd tell myself. It takes time. But Chloe never really bridged that gap. When we were with my friends, my buddies and I would go out of our way to include her. We'd explain the stupid backstories to our jokes, ask her opinion, make her part of the crew. With Chloe's friends, it was like I was a ghost. I'd be mid-sentence and someone would just start talking over me about a vacation they'd all taken years ago. And Chloe, she'd just slip right into the conversation with them, leaving me stranded on my little conversational island. I brought it up with her a couple of times gently. She'd get a little defensive, say I was being too sensitive, that her friends were just a lot. But she loved me, and that's what mattered. I believed her. I wanted to believe her, because the version of her I got when we were alone was worth putting up with a little social frostbite. But that tight-knit group had a leader, Sarah. Sarah was the queen bee, the one who set the tone for everyone else, and I always got the feeling she never approved of me. She'd give me these once-overs, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. She was the one, I'd later learn, who was closest to Chloe's ex, the one who vanished. And that connection, that little thread of the past, was about to pull everything apart. It all crystallized on a sunny Saturday that was supposed to be simple. Chloe was going to a fancy ladies' brunch, all heels and sun hats. She texted me, asked if I could pick her up afterward. No problem. Then, another text. "Hey, why don't you just come for the last drink? The girls are insisting." My gut did a little flip. Insisting, or was she insisting? I didn't want to intrude, I said so. But she pushed. "Don't be silly. They'd love to see you. It'll be fun." She was using that voice, the one that usually made me say yes to anything. So, against my better judgment, I went. Walking into that patio restaurant was like walking into a wall of sound that suddenly hit mute. The laughter and chatter died down for a beat too long. 6 pairs of eyes swiveled to me, not with welcome, but with appraisal. Sarah gave me a slow, cool once-over from behind her sunglasses. Chloe bounced over, threw an arm around me, but her body was angled toward them, not me. It was a possessive gesture, not an affectionate one. Like I was a handbag she was showing off, not her boyfriend. I got my drink and tried to merge into the conversation, asked about someone's vacation, a few one-word answers. Then the topic swiftly changed back to a story about a bachelorette party I wasn't at. I felt like a ghost trying to pick up a pen, useless, invisible. The one drink stretched into 2. Chloe's arm was around my shoulder, but her laughter was for them. Her attention was for them. I was just furniture. I finally made my excuses, mumbled something about work, and practically fled to my car. My phone buzzed immediately. It was her. "Where did you go? Come back. You're being ridiculous. They all love you." She sounded so genuine, so confused by my reaction. And like a fool who wanted to believe the best, I turned my car around. When I got back, the atmosphere was different, warmer. People made eye contact, asked me a question or two. I started to relax. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe I was the problem. I let my guard down. I even excused myself to the restroom, thinking everything was finally okay. That was my mistake. Coming out of the restroom, I saw it before I heard it. The huddle, the lowered voices. Chloe's friends were leaned in, a tight conspiratorial circle. As I approached the table, Sarah, without even looking up, held up a single finger, a universal sign for stop, and said, "Hey, do you mind? Girl talk? Give us a sec." The humiliation was instant and hot. I just stood there, frozen. I looked at Chloe, my girlfriend, my partner. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She was staring intently at her napkin, completely complicit in my exclusion. I felt like a child being sent to the corner. I started to leave again, my face burning, when Sarah let out a light, fake laugh. "No, not you. Just the topic. Just don't listen for a bit, okay? Don't listen?" We were at a tiny table. I sat down, pulled out my phone like a shield, my ears ringing. And that's when I heard the name. Mark, her ex. Sarah was pressing Chloe for details. "Have the calls stopped? Do you think he's okay? It's just so weird he vanished like that." They were talking about her ex-boyfriend, the one who still called her from blocked numbers. And my girlfriend was right there, engaging, forgetting I even existed. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, walked to the bar inside, ordered a burger, and watched the scene from a distance. It took her 40 minutes. 40 minutes of them gossiping about a ghost from her past, before she even noticed the living, breathing boyfriend she'd left behind at the bar. That car ride home was colder than the air conditioning blasting on my face. I drove, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, while she stared out the window. The silence was heavy, suffocating. I finally spoke, my voice quieter than I intended. "I can't believe what just happened back there." That was all it took. The dam broke. She didn't apologize. Not at first. She went straight on the defensive. What was I supposed to do, huh? Ignore them? It's a serious situation. I told her that being told to excuse myself from my own girlfriend's conversation was humiliating. That talking about her missing ex in front of me without a single glance to check if I was okay was disrespectful. She fired back. "Well, you just left. You made it weird by going to the bar instead of just saying something." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was my fault for not tolerating the disrespect gracefully? Then came the sorry but apology. The worst kind. "I'm sorry you felt that way, but you have to understand they're worried." She was apologizing for my feelings, not for her actions. The woman I loved, who was usually so in tune with me, had been completely replaced by this stranger, who was prioritizing her friend's gossip over my pain. When I didn't immediately accept her non-apology, she got mad, actually properly angry. I said, "I'm sorry. What else do you want me to do? It's over, just drop it." I dropped her off at her place with a terse good night. The slam of her car door sounded final. I drove home feeling hollowed out, wondering if I was the crazy one. The next day, the whiplash began. My phone blew up with texts. Now the apologies were profuse. I was a horrible girlfriend. I have no idea why I acted like that. I barely slept. I feel so terrible. She was pleading, taking full responsibility. It was the Chloe I knew, the one I loved. We talked for hours. She listened. She cried. She promised it would never, ever happen again. She said she'd shut down any conversation like that in the future. My guard, which was up at a fortress level, began to lower, brick by brick. Maybe it was a terrible, one-time mistake. Maybe we could fix this. That was the hope. But the seed of distrust had been planted, and it grew like a weed. A week later, we were at a casual backyard BBQ with the same group of friends. I was on edge, watching, waiting, and I saw it. The subtle shift. The way her posture straightened when Sarah arrived. The way her laugh became just a little higher, a little more performative for them. She wasn't the relaxed, goofy Chloe from our private moments. She was the group Chloe, and she was slowly, subtly, pulling away from me again. Not enough to cause a scene, but enough for me to feel that familiar chill. I tried to hold her hand. She squeezed it once and let go to gesture while telling a story. I made a joke. It landed with my friends, but Sarah gave a thin smile and changed the subject. And Chloe followed her lead. I felt the anger boil up inside me, hot and desperate. Later, by the food table, I lost it. I didn't yell, but my voice was low and shaking with betrayed fury. "You're doing it again, right now. You're letting them ice me out." Her face went from pleasant to stormy in a nanosecond. "We are in public. Do not start a fight with me right now," she hissed back, her eyes darting around to see if anyone was listening. The fear of her friend's judgment was more powerful than my pain. That's when I knew. It wasn't a fluke. It was who she became when they were around. And I couldn't live with that woman. The end was a messy, drawn-out affair, not a clean cut. It was less like a bomb going off and more like a building collapsing floor by floor. After the BBQ, I was done. I called her, my voice numb, and said we needed to talk. She knew. She immediately accused me of trying to break up with her. Before I could even form a sentence, she screamed, hung up, and then showed up at my door like a tornado to grab her things, throwing everything into a bag without a word. Fueled by a performative rage I'm sure she was already narrating to her group chat. Then, the voicemails started. The first one was pure anger, blaming me for everything, for not trying hard enough, for being too sensitive. The next, an hour later, was her sobbing, asking how I could give up on us. Then a text, "If you really loved me, you'd fight for me." It was a roller coaster designed to make me dizzy, to make me question my own sanity. She was trying every emotional lever to see which one would work. The manipulation was almost impressive in its desperation. She'd love-bomb me with memories of our best days. Then hours later, guilt-trip me by saying the pain I was putting her through was torturous. She said she'd never do this to me, a line that stung because it was so blatantly untrue. She was doing it to me right then. Every message was a hook, trying to snag my heart and pull me back into the drama. I agreed to one last dinner, hoping for closure, a calm goodbye. It was pleasant on the surface, a beautiful, tragic facade. We both knew it was over. I looked her in the eye and said, "I love you, but I can't do this anymore. Goodbye, Chloe." I went home, emotionally exhausted but finally feeling a sliver of peace. I had done it. That's when the final, pathetic ultimatum came. My phone rang. It was her, voice slurred with tears, and what I suspect was wine. "Please, come over. Just one more time. I can't say goodbye like this. I'm terrified to be alone." I told her no. I said the goodbye had already happened, but she begged and sobbed until I was crying too, both of us just a miserable mess on the phone. It lasted for 30 minutes, 25 minutes longer than it should have. Finally, I found a shred of strength. "I'm hanging up now. Goodbye." And I did. I turned my phone off and fell into a fitful sleep. I woke up to a digital monument of our dysfunction. 10 texts, 3 voicemails. The messages ranged from, "I'm in so much trouble, please help," to "Thank you for our time together," to "Can I just come over?" The very last one was a masterpiece of emotional whiplash. A rational, heartfelt apology, taking responsibility, saying she'd never contact me again and that she'd always love me. It was the perfect apology. A week too late. It was the apology she knew she should have given after the brunch. And seeing it there, in cold text, after all the madness, it just solidified everything. It proved that she knew exactly what she was doing all along. She knew what was right and what was wrong. She just chose her friend's approval over doing right by me, over and over again, until there was nothing left. In stories like these, you always expect a grand, cinematic moment of comeuppance. You want the universe to hand them a neatly wrapped package of consequences. But real life is messier. The justice wasn't in her life falling apart. It was in my life, slowly, steadily, getting quieter. The silence after I blocked her number was the first victory. No more 3 a.m. essays of blame or love. No more whiplash, just peace. But a mutual friend, who'd always been decent, filled in the blanks a few months later. It seems the very dynamic that broke us eventually turned on her. Without me as the designated outsider, the group needed a new target for their drama. Sarah, the queen bee, apparently started nitpicking Chloe's grief, telling her she was overreacting about our breakup, that she needed to get over it and stop bringing the mood down. The same friends who encouraged her to gossip about her missing ex were now criticizing her for being sad about a real, present loss. The irony was so thick you could taste it. The person she chose over me, over us, was the same person who had no capacity for real, messy human emotion unless it served the gossip of the day. Chloe had built her social life on a foundation of judgment and exclusivity, and eventually, those walls started closing in on her. She became the subject of the very same hushed conversations she used to participate in. My mutual friend said she'd become quieter, withdrawn from the group. She'd gotten a new boyfriend surprisingly fast, but according to the gossip, it was already rocky. It had that desperate feel, like she was trying to prove something to them, to show she'd moved on. But people who jump from relationship to relationship without sitting in the quiet, they're just running from themselves. The real justice, though, wasn't in her suffering. It was in my clarity. Walking away from that chaos was like finally getting a prescription for glasses after years of blurry vision. Everything snapped into focus. I saw that it was never really about me not being good enough for her friends. It was about her not being strong enough to deserve me. I wasn't fighting for her. I was fighting for a version of her that only existed when we were completely alone. A version too fragile to survive in the sunlight of her own social circle. The calls from her ex? They stopped mattering. Her messy life, not my circus, not my monkeys. The greatest consequence she faced was my permanent absence, and the greatest justice I received was the realization that I had dodged a lifetime of walking on eggshells, of having my worth determined by a committee of mean girls. I didn't just lose a girlfriend. I shed a weight I didn't even know I was carrying. The weight of her approval. The weight of theirs. And let me tell you, standing up straight without that burden, that feels like winning. So here I am, months later. The phantom limb of that relationship has finally stopped aching. The quiet I was so afraid of. It's not empty anymore. It's filled with my own thoughts, my own rhythms. I can leave a dish in the sink without a commentary. I can spend a whole Sunday on my childish robotics projects without a single eye roll. The peace is palpable. I won't lie and say I don't think about her, or that some song doesn't come on that sends a memory, sharp and clear, right to the center of my chest. But the memory isn't of the brunch, or the fights, or the manipulative voicemails. It's of us laughing in my kitchen covered in flour. And that's okay. It's okay to mourn the good while being certain you did the right thing by leaving the bad. Grief and relief can exist in the same heart. They just take turns. The lesson wasn't just about spotting red flags. It was deeper than that. It was about understanding that love isn't just a feeling. It's an action. It's a choice. It's your partner choosing to build a bridge between you and their world, not asking you to swim across a moat of their friends' disapproval alone. It's about having each other's backs in a crowded room, because that's when it counts the most. I thought I threw away something amazing, but I didn't. I closed a door on a beautiful, well-decorated room that was, it turns out, built on a fault line. The next earthquake was always coming. It was only a matter of time. Now my boundaries aren't up for negotiation. My peace is non-negotiable. And if that makes me too much for someone, good. Let it filter them out early. I'd rather be alone than lonely in a relationship again. That voicemail? I finally deleted it. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need it anymore. The apology was never the point. The point was my decision to stop accepting crumbs from a table where I was never offered a seat. I chose a seat at my own table. And let me tell you, the view from here is so much better.